took a trip. That's not something I get to do a whole lot. Left my little hometown here in Murphy, North Carolina, and went due north and found myself in Aurora, Indiana. That's the farthest north I've ever been. And we're right on the banks of the Ohio River. Now, I knew that there was going to be quite a bit of history associated with where we were staying because there's quite a bit of history associated with the Ohio River. But I also hoped that I could get out and maybe look for something old. And the banks of the river seem to offer that opportunity. So here's what I found, and here's what I learned about this really cool place in America. We got a great little Airbnb, and it's actually right here in the picture, just across the road from the riverbanks, and some great views, but it's also some great access to the water. Well, this is right across the road from the Airbnb. Literally walked here in just about a minute. So you're looking at Kentucky over there, and to the left, just upriver, that's Ohio right there. And of course, I'm standing in Indiana. Three straight states come together right here at this spot pretty close. And this riverbank, well, I wondered, with some of the historic flooding that went on in Aurora, maybe there was some debris pushed down at various times and maybe it'd pop up on this bank. So let's take a look and see if I can run across anything with any age on it. I'll show you what I've found so far, and then I'll show you what I just saw. It's exciting as all get out to me. Some simple things. An old Coke bottle, but Cincinnati left its name on there. I'll take that as a little keepsake. And then, let me show you this. Now, you gotta know that I'm completely unfamiliar with the materials in this area, but that, I'm not sure what that is. Seemed native-ish though. But this, oh, this is a different story. Let me jump in here, because right now I'm waxing all sorts of poetical about this being a piece of chert. And it's not. That's a piece of melted glass. Should have known better, but I mean, this is the first time I've ever looked at this sort of ground and this material. I don't know what I'm looking for. So a little bit of learning in process there. Hopeful for like a Native American piece, but, you know, this is more of a dump site. But I do find something. Some old mason jar pieces. And I see a piece of cobalt, I think. That's not a piece of slag. There's some more. So what do you think about this one? Something, property of Manufacturing Co. Cincinnati. Something contents, but right up here, soda. Maybe I can figure that one out on my own with the Google machine. And we got a little neck of a cork top. Blown in a mold, and it's turning a wee bit purple. I like that. Man, I'd love to find a whole one. In all this jumble, that's going to be a pretty hard sell, though. But I'll look. There's a likely candidate for making an arrowhead when I get home. It's a good piece. Is that a clamshell? And I'm assuming, yeah, that's concrete. Not a clam, sorry, oyster shell. Is that an oyster shell? It kind of looks like one, which I find a little bit odd. up in Indiana. So maybe it's not. I need some of you local people to tell me a little something. I got a pile of learning to do in a short period of time. So I'm sure I'm going to be off track on some of this stuff. That's a sight you don't see in western North Carolina. Check it out. Oh man, it's busted. All right. What's that? I don't even have a clue what kind of fish that is. There's a piece of an old crock or a churn. Some bricks. Well, I finally found a piece of the native chert. Now, I can't swear that that was anything anybody worked on, but it's definitely the right material. That's probably as close as I'm going to get to anything native down here. So, I'm going to sign off and leave you with another barge. This is probably the most mundane thing for some of you guys, but it's amazing how we take for granted what's in our backyard. Sometimes we forget to see beauty in it. Take somebody new coming along to kind of go, hey, that's pretty cool. Well, I didn't exactly knock it out of the park with those finds, but that's all right. I was hunting blind, short notice. A few old, odd, interesting things is all a guy can really ask for. For me, the best part was the river itself and the history associated with it. Every single morning we'd wake up and watch that sunrise over the Ohio River. We'd watch the barges come by, which was probably one of the highlights of the trip. Every time one of those barges rounded the bend, I'd be taken back in time, and I would wonder who else rounded that bend. And there were some notable people. Daniel Boone would have been one of them. Boonesboro and Boone County, Kentucky are real close to Aurora, Indiana. Most assuredly, he would have been by a few times in a canoe. Upriver from where we were was Cincinnati, and it was a large Native American village. One of my favorite Native Americans from history, a great leader of his people by the name of Tecumseh. He would have been by. But probably the most notable, the one that you'll recognize, would be the Lewis and Clark expedition. And it's there that I found a pretty interesting story. It seems that a lot of the towns along the Ohio River kind of make note of the fact that Lewis and Clark passed through. But Aurora didn't seem to do that, and I think I know why. The expedition, in a sense, did pass by Aurora on the Ohio River. But Lewis and Clark weren't on the boat. Clark joined the boat downstream in a place called Clarksville. Lewis started out on the boat, a big old keel boat that he had built up in Pittsburgh, and had a handful of men and made his way downriver to join up with Clark, but he had a side trip that he needed to make. So when they reached Cincinnati, the guys stopped for about a week to rest, and Lewis, he got out of the boat and made his way 20 miles on foot to a place that today is known as Big Bone Lick State Park, a known fossil site, and it was known even in Lewis and Clark's day. Lewis was going there to gather as many fossils as he could because Thomas Jefferson wanted to take a look at what he could find. So he went and gathered a bunch of fossils, and then he met up with the boat on downriver south of Aurora. So neither Lewis and Clark really passed by, and maybe that's why Aurora didn't make a big deal about it. Something interesting happened to those fossils, though. They put them on the keel boat and took them on downriver, and then they shipped them on down the Mississippi, and the plan was to sail them to the Gulf of Mexico and then around the coast of Florida, and then back up north right into the arms of Thomas Jefferson. But the boat carrying the fossils sunk in Natchez, Mississippi, and all the fossils were lost. And speaking of fossils, I want to leave you with one last find, because as I was traveling north, I was really watching the way that the terrain changed. These mountains that I live in are very, very old. Fossils don't exist in the peaks of the Appalachians. You got to go down into the valleys. And as I went through Tennessee and up into Kentucky, I began to see things that I had never seen before. And I began to wonder, could I possibly find a fossil? Something I've never found. Well, I found it, and you won't believe where I found it. I found it at Walmart in Aurora, Indiana. Kid you not. We had to make a stop and get a few supplies, and as we were parked in the parking lot, I noticed a large cut bank behind Walmart. And man, the way that ground laid, I just wondered, could there be a fossil there? So I jumped out of the car, told the kids to hold on, ran across, kind of expected somebody to yell at me, ran across over to this cut bank, looked down at a few rocks, and realized, well, daggum, I just found a fossil. It's not going to make it to a museum, but it will be a favorite piece to me. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you learned something. I'll see you again real soon.